global alcohol industry has lost $830 billion in market value in 4 years. That's not a typo. Since its peak in June 2021, the industry has shed nearly half its value. And the easy headline is that Gen Z killed it. But that's not the whole story. What's actually happening to alcohol is a collision of 5 different forces that nobody in the industry saw coming at the same time. Let's start with the numbers that matter. The percentage of American adults who drink alcohol just hit 54%. That's the lowest number since Gallup started tracking it in 1939. Think about that. We drink less now than we did during World War II, during the Great Depression, during every decade in modern American history. In 2023, that number was 62%. In just 2 years, it dropped 8 full points. That is not a trend. That's a cliff. And yes, Gen Z is leading the charge. Only 50% of legal-age Gen Z adults report drinking alcohol. Among those aged 21 and older, 35% identify as complete non-drinkers. They drink about 20 to 30% less than millennials did at the same age. High school seniors who drink have dropped by half since 1975. When you survey Gen Z about why they don't drink, 46% say they're simply not interested. 34% cite mental or physical health concerns, and 20% say they're worried about addiction. This isn't rebellion, it's indifference. But here's what most coverage gets wrong. It's not just Gen Z. The decline is hitting every age group, and the forces behind it go way beyond generational preferences. Force number 1. In January 2025, the US Surgeon General issued an advisory directly linking alcohol consumption to cancer. Not might cause cancer, not associated with cancer in some studies. Causes cancer. 7 types of cancer specifically: breast cancer, colorectal cancer, esophageal cancer, laryngeal cancer, liver cancer, mouth cancer, and throat cancer. 20,000 Americans die from alcohol-related cancers every year. And here's the part that shocked people. Less than half of Americans knew about this link before the advisory came out. Now they do. The Surgeon General called for cancer warning labels on every bottle of alcohol, similar to what we've had on cigarettes since the 1960s. The day that announcement dropped, alcohol stocks tumbled, because suddenly, drinking wasn't just a vice, it was a carcinogen. Force number 2. Ozempic. This one blindsided everyone. GLP-1 receptor agonist drugs, the class that includes Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro, were designed for diabetes and weight loss. But patients started reporting something unexpected. They didn't want to drink anymore. Not couldn't, didn't want to. The cravings just disappeared. And the science backs this up. A 2024 study found that people taking semaglutide had over 50% lower risk of developing alcohol use disorder. Another study published in the journal Addiction found a 50% lower rate of drinking to intoxication among people on GLP-1 drugs. Scientists believe these drugs quiet the brain's reward signals in pathways that overlap with both hunger and substance cravings. They also slow gastric emptying, which means alcohol takes longer to absorb, making it feel less rewarding. There are now over 25 million Americans on GLP-1 drugs. That's 25 million people whose relationship with alcohol has fundamentally changed, not because of a social movement, but because of a side effect. Force number 3. Cannabis. In states where recreational marijuana is legal, beer sales have declined measurably. Research from Canada found that cannabis legalization was associated with significant drops in canned and kegged beer sales across most provinces. A US study, using state tax data, confirmed similar patterns. It turns out that for a lot of people, especially younger adults. Cannabis serves the same social function that alcohol used to. You use it to relax. You use it with friends. But it has fewer calories, no hangover, and an increasingly legal status. Cannabis hasn't replaced all alcohol consumption. Spirit sales remain mostly unaffected. But for beer specifically, the substitution is real. Force number 4. Money. 60% of consumers now cite financial strain as a reason they drink less. That's up from 36% in 2021. Alcohol isn't cheap. A night out with drinks can easily cost $50 to $100. A bottle of decent wine is $15 to $20. When rent is taking half your paycheck and groceries cost 30% more than they did 3 years ago, alcohol is one of the easiest things to cut. This is especially true for younger adults who are already earning less in real terms than their parents did at the same age. For Gen Z, not drinking isn't always a lifestyle choice. Sometimes it's a budget decision. Force number 5. Culture. The sober, curious movement has gone mainstream. Dry January participation has grown to 1 in 5 American adults, and over 70% of participants report lasting changes to their drinking habits. Social media has amplified this. Wellness influencers promoting sobriety get millions of views. The hashtag #SoberCurious has billions of impressions across platforms. Being the person who doesn't drink at a party used to be awkward. Now it's increasingly normal. 41% of Americans say they're actively trying to moderate their alcohol consumption, up 7% from 2023. So what does this look like for the companies that sell alcohol? It looks bad. Diageo, the company behind Johnny Walker, Smirnoff, and Guinness, has seen its stock drop 33% from its peak. Their earnings collapsed from £1.3 billion to $323 million in a single reporting period. That's a 75% earnings decline. AB InBev and Heineken are facing similar headwinds. Reuters published a piece comparing the alcohol industry's trajectory to tobacco, calling it a shift toward low-growth tobacco status. That's not a comparison any industry wants. But while the old guard bleeds market value, a new category is exploding. Non-alcoholic beverages are now an $853 million market in the US alone, growing at 27% year over year. Non-alcoholic spirits specifically grew 86% in a single year. Athletic Brewing, America's largest non-alcoholic brewery, went from producing 800 barrels in 2018 to 258,000 barrels in 2023. They raised $50 million in their latest funding round at an $800 million valuation. 35% of Gen Z consumers now alternate between alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks in the same sitting. They don't want to be sober forever. They want the option to not be drunk. Now, is the alcohol industry actually dying? No. It's still an enormous global business. People have been drinking for thousands of years, and they're not going to stop. But the growth narrative is over. The industry is transitioning from a growth sector to a mature, potentially declining one. The companies that survive will be the ones that adapt, like the beer companies launching non-alcoholic lines, or the spirits brands repositioning around premium, less frequent consumption. But the deeper story here isn't about market cap or stock prices. It's about a fundamental shift in how an entire society relates to a substance it has consumed for 10,000 years. When the Surgeon General says it causes cancer, when a weight loss drug kills the craving, when legal weed offers an alternative, when you can't afford it, and when culture tells you it's fine to skip it, that's not one problem the alcohol industry can solve. That's 5, all at once. And $830 billion says they haven't figured out how.